How you doing? This is Jazz, OldFashionHealth.com, good health inside and out. And I am your host, and I am here with Tom Blue Wolf, the founder of Earth Keepers, a One Tribe company. Correct?
Correct.
Right. Welcome again.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So tell us exactly. I know you have a lot of organic products, right?
Yes.
So first of all, let everybody know exactly what Earth Keepers are.
Well, Earth Keepers is a very old concept amongst indigenous people about keeping the earth, working with positive change and transformation. We adapted it about 1979 into an organization,
Okay.
formed Earth Keepers and Company. And so the mission statement is to reawaken the ancient dream of the rhythms and migrations that were a way of life when we actually did walk lightly upon the earth. And so it's all about sustainability and living a right life and organic foods and heirloom varieties of seeds and taking care of this place. We believe as Earth Keepers that we're actually stewards of the planet and that we should leave the place a little better than we found it at the end of the day.
Gotcha.
And say that this is our old tribal grounds, the Southeast United States. And it was only in about 1835 that there was an event called the Trail of Tears, where the Cherokee people and the Muskogee people and all the people that were in this area were forced to walk out to Oklahoma. So we became relocated.
Forced, but why?
Well, that's a good question.
Okay.
Andrew Jackson, you would have to ask that guy.
Okay. Duly noted.
So now we have a tribal grounds in Wetumpka, Oklahoma, and the
Okay.
Cherokee people have theirs out there.
Okay.
And so these are our old traditional grounds. And so the names that you see around here are still the Creek names: the Chattahoochee, the Kahala, the Kusawati, the Conasauga, the Katua. All of these names are Creek words.
Gotcha. So I really want to get into some of the organic products you have.
Okay.
So the herbal salve, is that correct?
Yes.
So the herbal salve, what exactly is that? Is it an ointment? What kind of benefits is that?
It's an ointment, and it takes on the consistency you can see here of, see.
Okay.
And so this is because of the beeswax. Now I brought a.
So that's a big block of beeswax, right?
So you can see that. So you melt that down, it turns into a liquid, and then when you set it up and let it get to room temperature again, it dries up in whatever shape that you put it in.
Okay.
And so, and it's a very powerful healer itself, and we can talk about that.
Okay.
But we use olive oil and then the beeswax and then a variety of herbs that are all orchestrated to heal the skin, the deeper tissues, even to some degree the bones, deep pains and scars and such like this. But the main purpose for the salve, as it turns out, has had amazing success with skin problems such as eczema and psoriasis.
I was going to ask you about that because I have a mild eczema as well, and I was curious if that really
Well,
works.
I've had people, and I would not say this myself, but people have used this and told me, they say, Tom, my husband was taking cortisone shots. He was taking all kinds of steroidal creams.
Right.
He'd used your salve, and within a week, it was gone. They've actually told me this. I have a really good testimonials for that process.
They say it works also, I think, for stretch marks.
I've had ladies tell me for stretch marks, for burns and cuts and bruises and insect bites.
Wow.
And as a matter of fact, the University of Florida, I think it's the University of Florida down in Tallahassee, uses it in their burn unit to help their burn patients, mild burns.
So I really want to go into the bee pollen now.
Okay.
Very interested in bee pollen. We were talking before the show started about we've only identified 60% of pretty much what makes up bee.
Well, this is documented that only about 50 to 60% of the contents of honey and/or pollen have been identified, and the part they have identified is mostly DNA. But then they've also found all the amino acids, vitamins and minerals, and some we don't even know what they do yet.
Right.
Growth hormones and thousands of enzymes.
Wow.
And so, and the miraculous part of that documentation is that it's in the perfect amounts for a human supplement.
What do you mean the perfect amounts?
like, the recommended daily allowance.
Right,
C and
doses, right.
And if you look at pollen, it's got all those recommended allowances.
Oh, I got you. Okay.
So like a natural God's own supplement.
So is it something we can ingest, or is it something we go?
You consume it.
Consume
Oh yeah,
it.
you
Okay.
consume it.
So what are some other benefits of bee pollen?
Well, I've had all kinds of people tell me all kinds of things, but one of the things is that this is what most people believe, and so it works for them. Right now it's called high pollen count season. It's allergy season.
It is.
So people say, well, if you eat honey or eat bee pollen that comes from your region, you can help your allergy and
I've heard
reduce
that.
the effects.
I've heard that.
So my contention is, if you eat it all year long, that'll never be an issue.
True.
It's like if your immune system was in fact a blanket,
Mm-hmm.
and portions of this blanket become threadbare over time.
Mm-hmm.
So things get in that aren't supposed to get in.
Right.
So your immune system is called down, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you are susceptible to some of these issues. Somebody with a
Compromised.
strong immune system can withstand things. Otherwise, everybody gets sick.
Right.
And so this has the capacity to really strengthen your immune system. And that's the most important thing, I believe, on a physical level, that pollen can do for you.
I can't remember if I've ever seen it before. And when I opened it, it looks like grains, right?
Right, it's little grains. Now, when the bees go out and gather it, imagine this: the light hits the flowers, photosynthesis takes place, the light crystallizes and becomes pollen. DNA comes from the heavens. Bees go and gather this DNA and take it back to their hives.
Right.
So when they come in, we have little apparatus devices in there that shake the pollen off of them, and they drop it, and we catch it on a little screen and bring it out. But the pollen
Right.
that winds up in the bottom of the supra is moist, extremely moist. And so that's how they make their honey. So what we do is we take this pollen out and we sun dry it.
Okay.
Because if it's moist, it must be kept refrigerated. Because all God's creatures want to consume pollen. And if it's moist, mold will even eat it. Everybody will eat it.
Gotcha.
And so you sun dry it, you put it in the refrigerator or not. If it's sun dried, it doesn't need to be refrigerated.
Right.
And then the shelf life is about 10 years. So I figure you can take it camping, you can leave it in your car, and you can consume it anytime. And the other aspect that's different about this pollen than some pollens is that we only let our bees pollinate organic farms.
If I wanted to eat this, can I mix it with oatmeal? Do I eat it raw?
Well, you
I'm
don't
really
want to.
curious.
You don't want to mix it with something that's really hot, like tea.
That's why I'm asking these
Honey
questions.
you can put in tea. This should be eaten at room temperature, or you can eat it cold. Now, one of the things I want to say here, even though this is a very rare incident, is that there are about 1 in 3 million, 1 in 4 million people that have an allergy to bees. So what I suggest you do is that when you get this pollen, just take one of those little kernels, because one of those little kernels is equivalent to about 30,000 grains of pollen. So if you think about it, with one of those little nuggets, you're consuming the dream of 30,000 flowers.
Okay.
That's a lot of information.
It is.
So you just take that and see what effect it has. If it's going to have an adverse effect, it won't be so bad. It's just-
Bee pollen. So, Muskogee tea.
Now the tea.
Yeah. So can that be consumed at room temperature? Can you heat the tea up?
What I suggest is that as soon as you open this tea, you have to put it in the refrigerator
As soon as I
because
open it,
it's
okay.
alive.
Okay.
And if you leave it out, again, just like in the pollen, everybody's going to want it. And so it'll turn into a different kind of a remedy if you just let it sit out.
Right. So
So you put it in the refrigerator, put it in the refrigerator and shake it up, and then you just mix yourself a tablespoon of that with about 3 tablespoons of water.
Okay.
I'd say if you're addressing an issue 3 times a day,
Okay.
if you just want to use it for preventative maintenance,
Right.
once a day, on an empty stomach. See, I brought some of these herbs here to show you what's in the salve. This is calendula, and this is lavender flowers.
Okay.
And then we have some of these other herbs like the beeswax and stuff, and just so you can see what they look like dried
Right.
before we process them,
Okay.
turn them into a powder, and then put them in the salve. And then I brought some of the CDs as well.
Yeah. Which one? That's the CD. What kind of music is on?
Sweet music.
Sweet music.
Sweet music.
So is it?
There's a little bit of Native American flute.
Okay.
We got a little bit of didgeridoo.
Okay.
You know, some drums.
Gotcha.
One of the tracks is a guitar,
Okay.
but it's soft, melodic, kind of ambient you know.
So can I go to sleep to this?
You could go to sleep to it. A lot of massage therapists buy it to give massages to their
Okay.
clients. You know, it's real
Pretty
soft,
mellow.
kind of mellow, very mellow
Okay.
background music.
Do you have anything else in the pipeline as far as products coming out?
Yes, matter of fact, I have.
What do you got? What do you got?
Well, I'm working on a set of what we call gem elixirs, we call them starlight formulas, and we're working with some of these tinctures and extracts with gemstones. And we find that when we put this gemstones, various gemstones in with certain plant people,
Yeah.
and then let them sit in the sun for a certain amount of time, they exchange information.
Okay.
And the consolidation of that and the cooperation they give each other
Right.
creates another remedy altogether.
So
More
is
powerful
it like
than the
a
other.
salve or is it the tea?
It's going to be like an extract, like a tea.
Like
So
a
we
tea.
put it in like 4-ounce dropper bottles, and you take like 10, 15 drops and add it to water. And it's going to be real strong, like 20 times more powerful than it is alone.
Wow.
Mhm.
So-
Georgia is the most biodiverse region in the entire world, except for a small area in China. And so,
Now,
well, the Native American people have about 2,000 herbs that they use.
Okay.
1,800 of them approximately grow right here. And so we've always thought this was the heart of Turtle Island, because medicine traditionally comes from the heart. And so people would come from all over. We had all these mounds here a long time ago, and
Okay.
people would come and trade and take them. So humans became the pollinators. They would take
We
these,
take them everywhere.
take them back to their homes and plant them, and all of a sudden we distributed these medicines all over, but they came from right here in North Carolina, Tennessee, Georgia, the heart of Turtle Island, because people sometimes forget we're living in a place that has the oldest mountain range in the world. The Blue Ridge Smoky Mountains,
North Georgia, right?
oldest mountains in the world, older than any other mountains. I said, that's amazing. So there's been life here as long as there's been life anywhere.
So for all your ingredients, we were talking about, you also went to Africa to get devil's claw.
Right.
So do you travel all around the world just to get the best ingredients you can get?
Yeah. Yeah, I got the ashwagandha, it comes from India. The devil's claw came from Africa. I've got plants in here that come from, like cat's claw comes from the Amazon.
Okay.
And so I find neem leaf came from Africa, came from India.
Mm-hmm.
I use neem leaf. And so they said, well, there's all these bacteria and all these viruses and all these various things we have to deal with, parasites and, you know, the kinds of infections that we can get.
Right.
So I said, fungals and fungus and such.
Right.
So I said, well, how do they deal with it in the Amazon? How do they deal with it in India? How do they deal with it in Africa?
Okay.
Because now, bacteria from the Serengeti is showing up in the Everglades.
So you mentioned you were in Whole Foods.
Yeah, we're in Whole Foods all
Can they
over.
also get your products online as well?
Yep, online. And I'm also in like Rainbow Grocery here in Atlanta, and Seven Nandas and Little 5 Points, and I'm in Life Grocery out in Marietta, and I'm in 40 stores in Atlanta.
In Atlanta, wow.
Yeah, and then I'm in Whole Foods in Birmingham, Chattanooga, Asheville, and moving into Kentucky pretty soon, and we're in Florida.
In Florida.
Yeah.
You gonna take it up north eventually?
Yeah, we're working our way north.
Working way north.
Yeah.
Awesome. So the website, could you give the people your website?
Yeah, it's www.earthkeepers.net.
Again, Tom Blue Wolf, thank you
Yes.
so much for taking out
That's
your
my
time
pleasure.
to come talk to OldFashionHealth.com.
That's my pleasure.
Thank you so much. Again, this is Jazz, OldFashionHealth.com. Until next time, stay healthy.